everybody. I'm M83, and welcome back to another episode of The Convenor, the podcast where we have conversations worth convening. You think about things that you are nervous about, perhaps uncomfortable with, maybe right up there with a full-on fear. For me, flying, not public speaking. But I love great public speakers, which is one reason why I probably like public speaking, because I want to be like them. And not only do I love great public speakers, but I love public speakers who are willing to share their lessons and their learnings with others. So I want you to welcome my friend Steve to the stage today. And I'm not going to say that Steve's a professional public speaker, but if he'd chosen another path in life, he probably could, should, and would have been. But he is one of the top speakers I've ever seen live. We've collaborated before. And today we're going to hopefully unlock a little bit of Steve to help people out there that are afraid of public speaking as I am flying. Steve, welcome to The Convenor.
Thank you for inviting me, Mark. It's always a pleasure to be with someone who's completely bald and wearing black.
Yeah.
So I think your audience is getting bald and black today.
There you go. Should I jump into my knapsack and find my glasses? And that way you and I can be...
No,
are we men in black or men's in black or
well, no, I don't want you to jump.
Black?
I don't want you to jump into the glasses thing because I'm going to come back to that a little later. That's actually an important issue.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. So besides being bald, handsome, dressed in black, and wearing amazing glasses, in fact, how many pairs of eyewear do you have, mister?
Lots.
Lots is not an answer.
Dozens.
You worked in research all your life. You didn't let people say dozens.
Okay, 92.
92.
92.
Okay.
If you want an answer, 92.
I asked 3 times for an answer, so I was begging for an answer. Why so many, and why not?
Well,
100?
I am going to touch on this later.
Okay,
but
I can shut up.
No, you want me to answer it now, or do you want me to answer it later? Okay. So, I think personal branding is an important issue.
Yep.
And, people say to me, oh, those are nice glasses, or how many glasses do you have? Or, the whole issue with glasses 25 years ago was never about, do I like these glasses? It was always about the fact that you want people to remember you. And people do that in different ways. And for me, part of the shtick with the glasses is exactly what you just said. I want people to remember me for something.
Right.
And that's one of those things.
Which is kind of amazing because I would consider myself somebody who knows you fairly well. We're not best friends. We're not related. We've done sporadic things, but we've gotten to know each other. But for me, the glasses is always a key piece. But besides your eyewear, maybe fill in the dots for our audience a little bit on who you are and why you are who you are.
Sure. So the accent may give it away, but I grew up in the UK. I grew up in central London. Mm-hmm. And before I went to university, I left high school. I was pretty young. I joined Xerox.
How old were you?
Before I was 17th birthday. I was very young.
Wow.
Yeah. So I joined Xerox and I spent 3 years at Xerox as a sales guy, a commission sales guy. In those days, no salary, only commission. You got a draw, but it was commission sales. Mm-hmm. And short period of time, but I learned a lot. And one of the guys I was fortunate enough to meet there said to me, you want to go somewhere in life, you got to go back to school. So in the evenings, I did what we used to call in the UK A-levels. And those were your entrance exams to get into university. It took me 3 years. So by the time I was 20, I got into university. I spent 4 years at LSE, which was that was transformative for me.
Well, yeah. I mean, you didn't just get into any university.
No, that's right.
Yeah.
But it was transformative, and it was extremely difficult for me too. When I came out of LSE, I joined Morris Foods.
Okay.
And I was in brand marketing for a couple of years.
Do you remember what brand?
Yeah, I do. It was cat food. It was Whiskas.
Whiskas?
Whiskas, yeah.
You know what's so weird? Have you and I ever had this conversation? But my first client was Mars Canada. They were called Effem, E-F-F-E-M.
They still are.
It's not a 4-letter word. It's Effem. And I worked first on Cal Can and Whiskas on the cat portfolio. I had no idea whether you had that in common.
Well, then you'll know that the culture at Mars is rather, it's not extraordinary. That's not the word. It's different. It's different in the sense that when you get there, there's one giant pen. Mm-hmm. The president sits in the middle.
Yeah.
And then there's a spoke.
Yeah. The more powerful you are.
Or the less powerful you are, the further back you are.
Yeah.
And in London, the office was in Croydon. I was right at the back.
Right.
It was not a great place to be. Anyway, 2 years later, time to go back to school.
Okay.
So I came out to North America to business school, where I met my lovely wife. She's Canadian. We eloped. We moved to Singapore. We spent 2 years in Singapore, where I worked for the AC Nielsen company. We got married while we were away. We moved back to Canada. I got into the research business. And 2 transactions later, we sold our business to Ipsos in 2002. At which point, I was at a crossroad. What do I do in life?
Right.
I wasn't going to do nothing.
No.
And the Ipsos guys were pretty good. It's a French company. It's based in Paris, so it was global. So I hung in. I hung in all the way until 2021, by which point I'd hired my successor. And so since 2021, I spent half my time with Ipsos, mostly doing the things I like.
Okay.
With no P&L, no people to manage. It's wonderful. I spend time doing public speaking workshops, which I've been doing for many years, some pitch consulting, and I'm on a couple of charitable boards. And life is good because it all allows me to spend 100 days a year in Florida.
There you go. Well, some people might dispute the Florida part, but I know you've got a nice place down there, and we'll leave it at that. But interestingly enough, you made this comment at 2002, and not to get uber personal, but you made that transaction. It almost sounded like you were in a place where the transaction was significant enough that if you decided to spend 364 days in Florida shopping for glasses and playing golf, you could have.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I could have, but and my wife, when she was younger, she did do that. When she retired, she was fairly young, and she was a CA by training.
Right.
And for her, it was flip the switch.
Yep.
She was done.
Got it.
For me, that the Florida life thing is interesting and fun, but not for 300 days a year.
Got it. Okay, so let's go back to something that I think everybody finds interesting, but not everybody finds fun. But before we get your help in cracking the public speaking code, I'd love for you maybe to tell us another story. A story where somebody, a person, a course, a boss, a client, something happened where somebody gave you some advice or feedback that had a big impact on your trajectory and your career. So
there I was at Xerox.
Yeah.
Young guy. And Xerox,
16 years old.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes,
Very young.
16.
Excuse me.
It's all good.
So young guy.
Yeah.
I don't know anything. But Xerox was a great training ground from
Absolutely.
a sales perspective. But almost all of the sales training was one-to-one. So there I was one day at a car dealership. And it wasn't one-to-one. And there were a whole bunch of people in the room. I was there with my boss at the time. And, he was only 22. He's my boss at 22.
This is
So there I am.
This is amazing.
And
a 22-year-old and a 16-year-old selling to a bunch of car folks who are probably like twice all of your ages.
Well, he's 22, but actually he was almost like 40. He's one of those guys who.
Yeah, we all have that person in the universe. Yeah.
So I'm doing the pitch, not having done this with a group before.
Right.
And in those days, we used something that a lot of people who are listening today won't know about.
Right.
We use something called acetates.
You need to spell that.
No, I can't spell it. You spell it.
ACETATES.
Correct.
Acetates.
So we're using acetates.
Okay.
And I'm a little nervous. It's a warm day. Being in the UK, no air conditioning.
No.
So the acetates are pieces of plastic that you write on, typically with a marker of some kind. And they sit on top of a screen which projects onto a wall.
Yep.
I'm sweating onto the acetate.
No, you're not.
Oh, I am.
Oh.
And the acetate is smudging.
Water and acetate, sweat and acetate don't mix.
Suffice it to say, not good. Anyway, the guy I'm with, one of the suggestions that he makes is to read a book. I'm not going to tell you what the book is. I will later in this conversation.
Okay.
But the suggestion that he makes is actually transformative from my perspective.
Oh, really?
Toastmasters. So I go to Toastmasters, and in fact went to Toastmasters for many years. And for people who don't know, it's kind of an organization that engages you and helps you to be present in front of larger groups of people.
They pioneered this, did they not?
So Toastmasters it's not a course, it's not a book, it's not a program in many ways, but it is very much, and you'll appreciate this, experiential.
Love that.
And so Toastmasters was the thing for me that made a huge difference for me.
Amazing. Now, question. Did he give you this advice while you're in front of the car dealers and sweating, or was he kind enough to maybe share that in the parking lot or the car on the way
No, it
home?
was after the fact. And to be perfectly honest, I tried not to look at him
Right.
while all the smudging was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was extremely embarrassing and something I never wanted to repeat again. So the advice was well taken, to be honest.
Did you get the sale?
I don't remember.
Can't
it was
remember.
so long ago
Got it.
now.
You run programs, training programs around the world. I think I can't remember how many countries you told me once. How many you've done?
23.
23
Over the years.
Yeah.
Over the years. Yeah.
So the number of countries is catching up to the eyewear count. We've got a couple of charts going on in our minds right now.
It'll never get there.
Got it. But is there a situation where you were doing a training program, working with a group of people or an individual where there was maybe an unexpected outcome where as you started it, you didn't expect it to go to a certain place? And maybe tell us about that situation.
Well, I think that I think there are a couple of things you have to think about in that context.
Okay.
The first is that you need to be convincing, for sure. I mean, you're trying to convince people to do something, to take an action of some kind.
Right.
But you also want people to remember who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've certainly had instances with people over time where, as a consequence of that training, they've done things to help other people remember them. Now, I alluded to this earlier with the eyewear issue.
Right.
But I kid you not, I've most certainly had instances where I've made this point about remembering, which is harder than the convincing issue, where people have, for example, and I hope this guy's not listening to the podcast because
I hope he is. Okay.
Where
I hope there's enough clues that I can alert them.
You won't know who this guy's, but
darn,
he knows who he is.
Okay. Whoever you are, you should be listening.
Yeah.
We're talking about you.
Short guy in his 40s,
Okay.
smart,
Yeah.
Eastern Asian, guy in his 40s, but looked 55.
Oh, poor guy.
One of those guys whose hair just looked kind of strange.
Yeah. It's great when you're 20 and you look 35, but when you're 40, you don't want to be 55.
Absolutely.
Got it.
So what does the guy do? Grows an afro. People react to this guy in a completely different way
Yeah.
today than they did in the past.
Yeah.
You're wearing black.
Yeah.
I most certainly know people who, when they engage in groups, they always wear black.
Yeah.
And they are known to be the guy that always wears black.
You and I are just Steve Jobs wannabes at this point.
Well, I'd like to be, for sure.
Yeah.
So-
outside of the dead part.
So I think, part of the issue is about being convincing and remembering.
Yeah.
But there is another part. And that other part is really to do with, I'm looking down at a note that I wrote. So I'm going to try and remember this. It's the concept of proportionality.
Okay.
So what do I mean by that?
Yeah.
Now, to explain this story, I need to tell you a little bit about Cannes
Okay.
and the Festival
Cannes?
of Creativity.
Can. Okay.
Okay. Now, some of your listeners will know what the Festival of Creativity is. Some might not.
Yeah.
So let me explain. So Cannes is the Olympics of marketing.
Right. Except it doesn't move around.
No, it doesn't. It's always in Cannes.
Yeah.
So, the world of marketing descends on Cannes every June.
Right.
And part of this exercise is a competition. And the competition among young people at Cannes, known as the Young Lions, is segmented into a number of categories. There's a film category, there's a print category, and one of the categories is called the Young Marketers.
Okay.
And so the Globe and Mail in this country, they sponsor this competition in this country, like the Olympics. And then our teams, these 7 teams, go to Cannes to compete on the global stage. One of them, as I said, is the Young Marketers. Excuse me. So the Young Marketers, we prepare them. I'm a judge. One of the things we do to prepare them is presentation skills training.
Got it.
All right. So
It's like
there's
the Junior Olympics next to the actual Olympics.
It is.
Cool.
Absolutely. It is. So I've set the stage.
Yeah.
So having trained these guys for several years, there is one thing that if you go back to these young guys each year and you say, do you remember what Steve did? This is the thing that they will always remember. And it's the 1440 over 5 issue.
1440 over 5. Well, there's a lot of numbers in this podcast.
There is. So I'm going to explain what that means.
All right.
In the competition in Cannes, they're summoned to a briefing. They get briefed. when that briefing is over, they've got exactly 24 hours, 1,440 minutes to develop their submission.
Okay.
They work through the night to do this. There's a lot of pressure. They get their submission in. 2 days later, they're summoned back to do a 5-minute presentation.
Are they allowed to sleep in between the submission deadline and the 2 days later?
Well,
or is
they
that up to them?
can. They can, but that's a depends because that's the point.
Okay.
So the point I make to them is that you've got 1,440 minutes to get it right. And you've got 5 minutes to fuck it all up. Okay? So the point about proportionality is don't allocate your time proportion to 5 over 1,440.
Right.
Give yourself plenty of time to sell the idea.
Yeah. So people, that's interesting. So people coming in, I want to apply that actually. I'm going to deviate from our thread here for a second. I want to apply that then to you're in country X, Y, or Z, and you're having this conversation with them about you're doing speaker training. Do you apply that proportionality to that conversation? And when you do, how do people respond?
I don't apply that to it, but
Okay.
I do apply something similar, which I think many of your listeners will appreciate.
Okay.
Excuse me.
I'm loving the 1440 over 5.
Well,
and I did check your math, by the way, as you were talking. It was like, okay, 24 hours, 60 minutes. Oh yeah, he can multiply. So I just wanted to make sure that you weren't,
You're good, aren't you?
Yeah. I just want to check all this.
I'm waiting for a moment when you're bad.
I can't check your passport, and
you
I'm
can't
certainly
do
not
that.
coming to your house to check the glasses list. So
I'm waiting for a moment when you're bad, because if you are bad, I'm going to give you one of these. Because I hope that your audience knows what that is. That is the yellow card.
Wow.
That's a warning card.
Wow.
Now, if you were to get really bad, by the way, James is laughing in the background here.
Yeah.
If you were to be really bad today, I'm going to have to give you one of these.
Please.
Okay, James just laughed even more.
Just because you're from London doesn't mean you can whip the football.
I think I can.
There you
I
go.
think I can.
All right.
So
All right.
to answer your question,
Yeah.
though,
All
to
right.
answer
In
your
the spirit
question,
of World Cup 2026. Thank you,
here's-
Steve. FIFA, we will send you some money for Steve's unauthorized use of the red and yellow card.
So here's the answer to
Okay.
your question.
Yeah.
What I would say to people, both abroad and here, is yes, storytelling is an important word. Bit overused, but it is a good word. But actually, it's not a word. It's 2 words.
Yeah.
And that what people need to think about is the fact that there is the story. Absolutely there is. And if you're an expert, you're the guy who develops the story, you and your team.
Right.
But think long and hard about the telling of the story, because they're not one. They're 2 separate things. Now, they have to be in sync when you tell the story, but be very clear about the fact that that's 2 words and not one.
Every changemaker has a vision for something better. But turning that vision into action takes clarity, strategy, and the right story. This episode of The Convenor is sponsored by Humanity, a marketing leadership partner built for purpose-driven organizations. We help changemakers bring clarity to their vision, confidence to their message, and momentum to the change they're here to create. Learn more at humanityagency.com.
I'm getting off track, but it's on track, and I love this. But, I think I'm guilty of being one of the folks who's always imagined that storytelling is one word. So am I I hate the words majority and minority, but are there more people who are confused as I am that it's one word when in fact it's 2, or are there less? Go ahead and you've already insulted me with the yellow card, red card. Maybe now I'm getting a 2-match suspension.
Well, I'm not sure that you would be in that camp, to be honest, but I think most people are. Most people, the classic scenario is your story is if you're using visual aids, that's your story. It sits behind you. You are the storyteller. And what most people do is they put a whole bunch of content on the screen.
Right.
And then they start to tell the story.
Yeah.
And in that scenario, the story and the storyteller are not in any way synchronized with each other.
I get that. So now let's talk a little bit about the people that are in your courses, potentially marketing professionals and others. We sort of glossed and danced around it a little bit at the top. I had no idea, by the way, that you were a Toastmasters alumni, if I can say that. But you are a shining example of somebody who was 16 years old, 16 and a half, in that moment we've all had in our career, literally sweating your off, your boss watching, these people watching, and somebody gave you that advice. And again, I'm pumping your tires because you said you're at a car dealership, but you are an amazing public speaker.
Oh, that's too kind of you.
Amazing. So what is holding folks back from cracking through, especially marketing professionals? Because whether it's one person, 3 people, a room, a keynote, a podcast, public speaking, storytelling, 2 words, is so important. It can get you funding. It can get your program approved. It can get you promoted. It can convince people, but people are frightened. They hold themselves back. What do we need to do?
Well, I mean, you've kind of alluded to some of it, and I have already as well. But I think there's 2 things. There's the generic,
Yep.
which I'll touch on, which is not overly helpful, but I'll mention it anyway. And then there's the specific, and there's a couple of things I'd mention there which perhaps are more helpful. So the generic is that people are frightened.
Mm-hmm.
And, every 2 or 3 years, our UK team at Ipsos, they do an interesting study every 3 years.
Okay.
And the study is about fear, like what frightens people.
Mm-hmm.
And in the Western world, almost every time we've ever done this study, the number 1 fear is the fear of falling.
Falling
From an airplane, falling off a building. The number 2 fear, believe it or not,
Who
is
falls from an airplane?
in your dreams.
Okay.
In your dreams.
All
It's
right.
a nightmare.
Got it. All right.
The number 2 fear, believe it or not, is inextricably finding yourself naked in a public place. Like the fear of being at a bus stop and suddenly realizing
Right.
you've got no clothes on.
Yeah.
And the 3rd fear is the fear of public speaking,
Okay.
giving a eulogy,
Yeah.
giving a speech at a wedding,
Right.
giving a pitch. People are frightened of doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that some people talk about, oh, she or he are naturals, there is no natural.
There is no natural.
There's no
Yeah.
natural.
Yeah.
And so when you think about great speakers, when you think about a Barack Obama or a Bill Clinton or a Malcolm Gladwell, there's not natural there. All of these people are heavily coached, all of them.
And practice, like Oprah Winfrey doing late night radio that nobody listened to until someday it just broke through.
Absolutely. So that's the generic issue.
Mm-hmm.
The specific issue,
Can I just back up for a
Yeah,
second
yeah.
though? Of those 3, are you afraid of any of them falling, waking up, finding yourself in a public space
well, when
naked?
I was younger, I certainly dreamt every now and then of God, I'm at a bus stop, I got no clothes on.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I'd be lying to you if that had never happened to me.
Do you know some early entrepreneurial advice that I got? My office used to be at Young and Bloor, not far from Ipsos. And a mentor said to me, I'll tell you the difference between an entrepreneur and a manager.
And a manager, yeah.
Yeah. And their advice was, if we took off our clothes, went down the 12 stories in the elevator at the building, and went out to Young and Bloor, the entrepreneur would have talked their way into a new suit while the manager would have been arrested. That was that was the difference.
Yeah, that's one of those anecdotes I'm going to remember.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go.
I can remember.
Let's get specific, and don't be afraid. I think, you've said some great gems, but feel free to double down on them and double
Yeah.
click, because I think amidst our banter, I want to make sure that
Sure.
people are getting the specifics out
Well,
of
and
this.
likewise, feel free to ask questions about them. So I think there's 2 or 3 specifics. One
Yeah.
of them we've already talked about, which is the storytelling issue.
Yeah.
It's not 1 word, it's 2.
Yeah.
And the net result of people who have an awful story, but are actually pretty good at telling, is that the story is like a ball and chain. And, it's not a visual aid. It's a visual hindrance.
Right.
It actually hurts what they're trying to do.
Okay.
So that would be one point. Second point is, and this happens in almost every case that I see. You see it everywhere. We all do. Too much information.
Mm-hmm.
People put too much information on their stories, certainly on their slides. And that translates to 2 temptations. The first temptation is that the audience will read the slide,
Right.
in which case you lost them.
100%.
So I don't know if the video will capture this, but if you look out at your audience and you see people doing this,
Mm-hmm.
they're not listening to you anymore. You lost them
Right.
because you put too much information out there.
Right.
That's the first temptation. The second temptation is even worse. You'll read the slide.
That drives me bonkers.
And if you read your own slides, why do you need to be there?
Yeah.
Like, Send it to them.
Yeah. I mean, then sorry to interrupt, but
No,
the number of
no.
times I've said to people on my team, and I know it probably isn't going to go over very well for the audience, but literally, why have you assumed that you're convening a meeting of people who are illiterate? Was that in the meeting invite?
Yeah. 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 I agree. I couldn't agree more. Absolutely. Either way, the third issue is the no training issue.
Yeah.
We train people on our products. We train people on a whole bunch of financial related issues. We train people on HR practices.
Mm-hmm.
We give people almost no training on their communication skills. We leave them to develop habits, more often than not, to watch their boss, who's often not
Trained either.
That's right. And so it's no wonder that people develop terrible habits. So, generic is fear and specific is storytelling, too much information and no training. In a nutshell.
No, I love it. I'm going to go on a quick segue and then come back. But who came up with the idea that you should do speaker training? You, or did somebody watching you?
No, I did. I felt that there was originally, long time back,
Yeah.
I could see how bad some of our people were at Ipsos.
Sure.
And so I felt there was a need. And so I started to develop that. And, it spun out over time.
Mm-hmm.
Ipsos liked what I was doing locally. And that's where the 23 countries came into play.
And do you think today you have a very, how would you describe your presentation style or the types of presentations you put together, which I know are two different questions?
Well, how would you describe them? Because you've sat through my presentations.
I think one of the things that you do really well is so I think both you and I believe in the hero's journey, which is it's a story. It's all glued together.
Yeah.
Has a beginning and end. There's a problem. You're really good. You're really good at putting a problem up in front of people. But what I love about you is you don't give away the ending. So the problem is there. You serve the problem up, you have this little trick you use with numbers where you'll pull a bunch of different numbers, and then they'll become an equation. That number is the number for people to remember. But I think it's like a movie script.
Yeah. I think, it's interesting to get that as an observation.
Mm-hmm.
And the true answer to that would be, a long-winded 20-minute with me showing you a bunch of stuff. But if I had to boil it down to maybe three things, I'd say that the single most important part of any presentation you give is the opening.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't get people in the first 100 seconds, then you got a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when the cell phones are going to come out, and that's when people are distracted. So you really got to have something at the beginning. And of course, there's a bunch of tricks and tips about openers that you shouldn't use.
Yeah.
The second most important part of a presentation is the closing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if an opener is all about first impressions, then a closer is about lasting impressions. And the third most important part of a presentation, not a speech, is answering questions, which of course most people would argue is the toughest part of any presentation, because it's the one that you're least able to prepare for. So I think if you can nail those three, you're well on the way to doing something better than you were before.
I completely agree. I mean, I sweat the first sentence.
Yeah.
To me, I got to nail the first sentence.
Yeah.
And then somebody also coached me once to try not to finish your presentation with the word thank you.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so purely Canadian to do that.
Is it?
I mean, it's so polite. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you for telling me that.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that.
A couple of tips I would offer you about openers is the first thing is I would not start with something humorous.
Let's have that discussion.
Yeah, I would not. I think it's dangerous. I think that unless you are really sure that most people are going to laugh at it, I wouldn't do it. Or unless you are really a funny person by nature, I wouldn't do it.
Okay.
I mean, could you imagine opening a presentation with 120 or 1,200 people with something funny and no one laughs?
I've seen it happen.
Well, that's just horrible.
Horrible. Yeah.
That's horrible. So I definitely would not do that. What I would do is I would open with something that is of magnitude.
Okay.
Something that gets people to lean in. I'll give you an example.
Thank you.
we did a pitch with one of the consulting firms, not as a client, but as a partner. And they are more audacious than most.
Okay.
And their first slide talked about the $1 billion challenge. There was no $1 billion challenge. It wasn't even $100 million. But a $1 billion challenge in a Canadian audience, that gets people to lean in.
In any audience, yeah.
That's right. That's magnitude.
Yeah, got
So
it.
it's not funny, but it's, my eyes squint. I got to lean in for this one.
I love that. So tell us some myths that people have about public speaking and things that they need to shake.
Oh, I love this question. This is a good one.
Yeah. You know what's very interesting about this question? You wrote it.
I did?
Yes, you did.
I'm sorry. That definitely requires a yellow card. That was meant to be just between you and I.
You're all like, oh, I love this question. You worked at Mars, so you're now eating your own dog food, right? You know that expression.
I'm going to look at this Kramer now. He gave that one away, He shouldn't have said that.
Myths about public speaking.
So here's a few myths.
Questioned and answered by Steve Levy.
I like it. So the first one, my mother, actually, this was my mother.
Okay.
Before her time, the best communicators are actually not the best speakers. They are the best listeners. And her phrase, which lives with me to this day, is that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that you should use them in that proportion.
Right.
So that, for me, that's always right near the top of the list. The second is that nerves, and people do talk about, oh God, I'm nervous, are a bit of a misnomer. And they're a misnomer, firstly, because you got to be really prepared. And if you're really prepared, you will be less nervous. The second thing under nerves is that you need to convince yourself that you know more about whatever it is you're talking about than anyone else in this room. And the fact of the matter is, you do. There's no one who could possibly know what you know. The third reason...
Can I just jump in on nerves for a quick second?
Sure.
So one of my speaking mentors said to me, it's good to be nervous because it shows you care.
Well, it is good to be nervous.
Yeah.
That was my fourth point, and I'm going to come back to that.
All right.
Partly because it's not entirely in line with what you said.
Okay.
So the third point is you are nervous. For the reason perhaps that you mentioned.
Right.
But people don't know you are. They don't know that. And it's very rare that you see someone who's pouring with sweat or trembling all over the place. I mean, it's just rare that you see that.
The downside to that auto dealership story is people did not have Instagram at that time,
Yeah,
let
that's
alone
right.
a mobile phone.
Well, that was
Maybe it's on like an 8mm or somebody hand cranking a video of you as you're using the acetate.
Yeah, well, perhaps.
Okay.
But look, even in that case, it wasn't like I was really nervous.
No.
I mean, other things contributed to that as
heat.
well. Yeah, that's right. So, people don't know you're nervous.
Right.
The last point is the point you made, is you should be nervous. Partly for the reason that you gave, but for another reason as well.
Okay.
And that is, you get up and stand in front of a group of people, whether it's 12, 120 or 1,200, you want to be pumped. You want adrenaline to be flowing through those veins.
Right.
If you're not nervous, you're monotone, you're boring.
Got it.
So you want to be truly pumped when you get up in front of a group of people. Nerves are necessary. They're not a hindrance.
Do you have a go-to move? Like I was speaking once at a conference where they ran 3 keynotes in a row to open. So it was kind of, and I'm not trying to brag, but we were all paid keynotes.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they picked some people and the guy going before me was doing calisthenics in the back. Now, this was a massive setup. It was an auditorium. It was like 3,000 people, but he was full on burpees. What's your go-to?
Well, I'd say 2 things. One is when someone says to you, could you speak at X? I would really try hard not to be the 4 o'clock speaker. I mean, you want to be really early in the agenda in the morning, or you want to be the first person in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 spots you always want.
Yeah.
Hopefully that's where you are. If you're not, then I think the person that you talk to absolutely has it right. I mean, I don't want to be sitting in a seat for an hour and a half when someone calls you up to get on the podium. No,
Right.
you don't want that.
Yeah.
So, if you are in that unfortunate circumstance, you want to be outside jumping up and down or doing something that gets your heart ticking.
Got it. Okay. Back to the myths. My apologies.
No, I finished the myths.
You're all done.
I'm done with myths.
Great question. I don't know if you know that. It was a great question. Yeah. Really.
I thought so.
Yeah.
I thought so, yeah.
But just going back before I ask you kind of a closing question where I just want you to give the group some parting thoughts. You made this comment about like being audacious, don't start with humor. Could you give us a tip about impactful ways to close?
Closing, yeah. Well, I think here's the general, and I'll give you an example as well. General is, closing is about summation.
Mm-hmm.
It's about wrapping up with an agenda, with things that you talked to in your agenda.
Mm-hmm.
It's about next steps. It's about asking a question that bears on a need. It's about, again, this is in a presentation, not a speech. It's about perhaps throwing back to the group of people that you've presented to the 5 or 6 things that you've agreed to throughout that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
A grander closing might be to sandwich what you've done. So if at the outset you were to show a photograph that illustrated a point, you might close with the same photograph.
Got it.
To kind of sandwich the content in one.
Yeah. Love it. I love a sandwich. It's much better than a red card. So now to close us out here, what parting thoughts do you have for a group that you want to make sure that they leave with today, knowing that there's obviously we're just kind of popcorning a little bit on public speaking, but what should they remember coming out of this?
So I would leave your audience with the same comment that I leave every group that I run public speaking workshops with. And that comment would be that, so we've spent 8 hours together, 2 mornings.
Feels like it, by the way.
Really? Does it? For me, it's just flown. I think that definitely, I'm sorry, that requires a yellow card. I think that was totally unfair of him. And I'm going to look at the other camera when I say this. So the same comment that I would make to those people I spend 8 hours with in an interactive workshop, which is, if you thought that this workshop was about presentation skills, you'd be wrong.
Uh-oh.
What this was actually about was winning friends and influencing people.
Thank you, Dale Carnegie.
Exactly. Dale Carnegie published the book Winning Friends and Influencing People in 1936.
Wow.
I wasn't alive then.
You beat me to it.
It then got republished in 1961, second edition.
Yep.
The third edition came out in 1981, which was in fact the edition that I read.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth edition came out in 2019. Winning friends and influencing people is as relevant today
Timeless.
as it was in 2019. And it will serve everyone in your audience well, both in their business life and in their personal life. That's the point that I would leave with your audience.
Thanks, Steve. I love that book. I love that point. I love the timelessness of it. I would encourage you to follow Steve. Where can people get a hold of you, or they want to follow you or get to know you better?
They could Google me.
Google you?
Or they can find me at steve.levy@ipsos.com.
steve.levy@ipsos.com. And what about the people that aren't using Google anymore? Because this search thing, this AI thing has taken over. Doesn't
Everyone's
matter.
using Google.
Okay, there you go. Well, somebody's on the payroll with Google. Anyway, I am MH3. Another great conversation about the Convenor. Better or for worse, you'll find Steve and I on the odd sidewalk cafe, sharing a breakfast, a coffee, walking along the beach of Cannes barefoot, thinking about the marketing Olympics. But I would really encourage you that if you get a chance to see this man in action, it is well worth the price of admission. And I'm looking for the next time I get to see you on stage. Hopefully I'm invited back. And once again, thanks, Steve.
Always a pleasure.
It was great to see you. Please leave your red and yellow card in the recycling bin on the way out.
Okay. Thanks for your time.